What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to discuss Jimmy Garoppolo and where he potentially will end up this offseason. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo is a coveted guy this offseason because a lot of teams, frankly, don't have quarterbacks. There are a lot of teams searching for quarterbacks and a lot of teams that are coming up on the draft that are looking at this draft class that are not necessarily loving the draft class or not absolutely wowed by the draft class. So that's why a lot of people are discussing Jimmy Garoppolo as a potential quarterback to play for one of these teams. What teams am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about pretty much any team that needs a quarterback. That's the Cleveland Browns, the Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers, Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals, and I'll also throw in one more shocking team, maybe even the New Orleans Saints, and I'll talk about that just in a little bit. But Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that is played behind Tom Brady. He's played behind Tom Brady now for 3 seasons. He's going on his 4th season. He was a second-round pick out of Eastern Illinois, and when he got drafted, the Patriots looked at him as potentially the replacement for Tom Brady for a couple of reasons. They believed in him, they thought he was talented, and also they thought that Tom Brady might be slowing down sometime soon. But as we saw in Super Bowl 51, it doesn't appear like Tom Brady is going to slow down anytime soon. It almost seems like Tom Brady is getting better with age. Now, time will tell how much longer Tom Brady will last, but it seems like the Patriots want to go all in on these last couple of years where Tom Brady will be playing as a Patriot, and they'll probably be getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo for picks or players in order to really help Tom Brady's supporting cast for the next couple of years and the next couple of years at a run at a Super Bowl. So for Jimmy Garoppolo, he's only played 2 games in the NFL in the regular season. Now, he's also had 2 games in mop-up duty in 2014, his rookie season against the Chiefs, and against the Bills in Week 17. But there was 2 games where he started, and that was this season due to Tom Brady's suspension. So he has 2 games of regular season experience in the NFL. That is 2 more games experience than any quarterback in the draft class, obviously, right? Well, he played against the Arizona Cardinals and the Miami Dolphins. The Arizona Cardinals in Week 1 were a team that was expected to beat the Patriots at home. Just a team that looked like they were going somewhere this season. They looked like they were going deep in the playoffs, potentially even the Super Bowl, potentially even winning the Super Bowl. They were that favored going into the season. Jimmy Garoppolo went into Arizona and won that game. He also played the Miami Dolphins in week number 2, a team that made the playoffs. Now, back in week 2, a lot of people didn't think that the Miami Dolphins were really going to be much, but nevertheless, they ended up making the playoffs. So for both of these games, I think the judgment or the scale of difficulty needs to be judged, because I think Miami's game wasn't looked at as such a difficult game when it might have actually been a more difficult game. And for the Cardinals, they weren't a playoff team this season, but they were a team that was expected to go far, and also a team that still fielded a pretty good defense. So he went 2-0 in those games, and his stats look something like this. He was 68% completion percentage, 502 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 113 passer rating. Now, there are quite a few things I can tell you about Jimmy Garoppolo. I can tell you his strengths and his weaknesses from watching pretty much every game he's ever played, including those regular season games, including the preseason as a Patriots fan myself. Jimmy Garoppolo has a great release. He was often compared to Tony Romo coming out of the draft, and for good reason. Not only did he come from Eastern Illinois and break Tony Romo's records that were long-standing, but he also has a great release on par of that of Tony Romo, who's had one of the best releases in the NFL, maybe ever. So Jimmy Garoppolo carries a great release and can get the ball out very quickly, which is what the Patriots really liked about him coming out of the draft, because that suits their offense. He also has a good arm. It's not a great arm. I wouldn't say it's one of the best in the league, but it's a good arm. It's a solid NFL arm. It's not Alex Smith. It's somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's like the best arm ever where he can throw it 80 yards on a rope on his knees, but he has a good enough arm that can get it done deep down the field. His accuracy is really, really good. Where his arm doesn't really, he makes up for it in accuracy, is what I'm saying. He has a pretty good arm down the field, but his accuracy is what's really good. He has good accuracy. He has a great release. Those are two things that the Patriots really liked coming out of the draft. He's also mobile a little bit. He can run outside the pocket. He can make guys miss, and he can potentially even run for first downs every now and again. Similar to Tony Romo in the way that he escapes the pocket and makes plays down the field. At least a young Tony Romo before he got injured. So Jimmy Garoppolo, like I'm saying, he's comparable to Tony Romo in a lot of his skill sets. So when you watch Tony Romo, that's probably, you're going to get a young Tony Romo from Jimmy Garoppolo in the skill set. He's also very intelligent. Garoppolo has picked up a very difficult offense very quickly in New England and did a really good job in those first two games. He rarely ever made a mistake. He didn't throw an interception, and he made a lot of good plays, positive plays, that I didn't really expect him to make. He played like a veteran quarterback, even though he was only playing his first two games, starting in the NFL. His weaknesses, two things that I really noticed from Garoppolo. He's very, very confident in his abilities and his ability to escape the pocket, his ability to throw down the field, his accuracy, and his release, that sometimes he gets overconfident and he tries to rely too much on his ability and not enough on his brains. And sometimes he tries to make a play where he'll throw across the field when it's not necessarily there, or he'll try and throw down the field to a receiver that's not necessarily open. So that's something that Jimmy Garoppolo has that can quickly be erased with more experience in the league. He also has a little bit of an issue sensing pressure. Now, I might be not judging him fairly, considering I've watched Tom Brady. The main quarterback I've watched is Tom Brady for the past 17 years. So for me, it's hard for me to really judge a quarterback in the Patriots system in terms of sensing pressure. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he can escape the pressure, but sometimes he doesn't see it all the time, which is something that's so amazing about Tom Brady's game, that Jimmy Garoppolo sometimes doesn't sense it. But when he does, he has the ability to escape it. So I think with experience, Garoppolo will be able to escape that pressure and know it's coming. So I think the two things that are really his weaknesses are just because he's inexperienced. So for me, Jimmy Garoppolo has a lot of upside talent-wise. I think he has a lot of upside in terms of his personality. I think he would be a good leader of a team, and it would be interesting to see what teams would give up for him. Now, the Browns, the Bears, the San Francisco 49ers, the New Orleans Saints, the Houston Texans, and the Arizona Cardinals are all teams that I brought up because these are all teams that need quarterbacks. Now, the Denver Broncos is also a team that needs a quarterback, but I don't think they're in the market for a Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're in the market for possibly a Tony Romo or an older, more veteran quarterback because they want to capitalize on their great defense. They want to win more Super Bowls as soon as possible, and that's the business that John Elway is in. Now, for the Browns, they have picks number 1, number 12, and number 33. Now, if I was any of these teams, I would give up a mid-round pick. I would give up a mid-round first if I was in need of a quarterback, if I wanted to pick a quarterback at that pick. If I wasn't looking at anything else and I said, I have a need at quarterback, I'm going to take a quarterback no matter what. You look at the draft class, it's not necessarily strong. I think Garoppolo is not only more experienced than those guys, but I think he's also maybe even more talented than those guys. There's a couple guys that have a high upside, but they also have kind of unexpected qualities about them. So for Garoppolo, I would not trade the first, second, or third overall pick for Garoppolo if I was the Browns, Bears, or 49ers. But if I was the Browns and I had my 12th overall pick and already picked a beast at the first overall at a different position and improving my team, I'm looking at a possible franchise quarterback in the mid-first round. I would probably go after him. Also, the Browns had the opportunity to pick Garoppolo a while back when he was drafted, and Kyle Shanahan was there. Kyle Shanahan is now the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. He wanted to pick rather Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo. Those were the two quarterbacks he wanted to pick. And those guys both might end up being the best quarterbacks from that draft. Kyle Shanahan is a very smart offensive mind. And he brought the Atlanta Falcons to their best offensive season ever. The 7th best scoring offense in NFL history. Now he's the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And he's looking for a quarterback. Does that mean that that Garoppolo will potentially end up as a 49er? Potentially. Now, do I think that they'll trade the 2nd overall pick? No. Do I think that they could possibly package maybe a future first and a third for him, or a second and third, or something like that this season, I could see that definitely happening. I think Kyle Shanahan likes Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that they would like to have him in San Francisco. So I could see that happening. I could also see the Texans potentially, if they're giving up on Brock Osweiler, because he has familiarity already with the system in Houston. Now, I know Houston has tried a lot of different New England quarterbacks that haven't necessarily worked out, but the 25th overall pick is something where if the Patriots didn't get anything better and the Texans were to offer that, I could see that also working for Jimmy Garoppolo, or again, a second, a third, or let me bring up the point of DeAndre Hopkins, because DeAndre Hopkins was supposed to be in a deal for Jamie Collins back way in the middle of the season when Jamie Collins got traded to the Cleveland Browns, and he was supposed to go to the Texans for DeAndre Hopkins. So you could work something out with Hopkins and Garoppolo potentially being switched as well. The Arizona Cardinals with the 13th overall pick is another thing where it's in the same boat as the Browns. If I really wanted to pick a quarterback in that spot, even though Carson Palmer is going to play another year, and you're looking down the line, you're looking at next year's draft even potentially to draft a quarterback, if you think that Garoppolo would be better than even those guys in the next draft, then I think you have to pull that trigger as well. Now, the Cardinals haven't been tied to Garoppolo, but that's just another team I wanted to bring up. So if I was a team with a mid-round pick, like even the Saints with the 11th overall, where they have a quarterback in Drew Brees who has only 1 year left in his contract, and maybe Sean Payton, he likes Garoppolo because he's from the same school as him, maybe that could be potentially open for a trade, even though I think the Saints are set with where they are right now, and I don't think they want to move. I think they'd rather use that pick to help Drew Brees. The Cardinals are a team that, again, unlikely, but you can see why they would want a quarterback. The Texans need a quarterback. Brock Osweiler stinks. It's just a matter of if they want to get rid of Osweiler already. Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers, and Cleveland Browns all desperately need a quarterback. But if I was the Browns with that 12th overall pick, I'd really think hard about it, because I think Garoppolo with 2 games under his belt, I know it's only 2 games, but that's more experience than anybody else. He's an experienced quarterback, and if you think he's more talented than the class that you got there, then I think it's worth pulling the trigger. Like I said, I think he's a quarterback that can develop into being one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, given the right system, given the right players around him. I think he has a lot of potential, and I would pull the trigger if I had a mid-round pick in the first round. So Jimmy Garoppolo, where will he be traded? I have no idea, but if I was a team in the middle of the first round, I would pick him. If I had to guess one place, I would probably guess, I think it's between the Bears, the Browns, and the 49ers. Now, he went to Eastern Illinois, so they have a connection with the Bears. Kyle Shanahan and San Francisco, also a connection. The Browns just have a lot of picks. So I could see the Browns trying to do something bold. I could also see the Bears doing something, but it would be more difficult. The 49ers, I think, are the team to watch out for. It's Mitch of The Bottom Line View. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe for more NFL content just like this one. Next up, I'm going to talk about where Tony Romo will be heading in 2017. Peace out.